We are live. You're live. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the W5NGU live stream of the Digitally Speaking Net, presented by Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Bravo Bravo. Today, we will be listening and broadcasting live the Digitally Speaking Net, so amateurs or just people looking to get into amateur or ham radio can do so. I will be broadcasting the live feedback of the W5NG repeater on 146.920 megahertz shortly. So stay tuned and subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. KG5 UBB 73 and listening.
DCT testing.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. Just cutting in on our live feed through our live stream. Just wanted to tell everybody that we are currently broadcasting live, and if you are not a part of ham radio, or amateur radio as we like to call it, this is a live stream of a net performed on the Denton County Amateur Radio Club's repeater. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to dcara.net. And yeah, our net starts shortly in about 20 minutes. K5WXR, I believe his name is Lee, will be helping us broadcast live through amateur radio to this repeater and create a net, which is like a conference call on the airwaves. And yeah, everybody on amateur radio will check in and you'll be able to listen. And yeah, please stay tuned. We will be broadcasting all of this pretty shortly through YouTube. But if you want to check in, you can, and you have an amateur radio, even if you don't have a license. If you don't have a license, you can only listen, but you can listen in at 146.920 megahertz on FM. I repeat, if you do not have an amateur radio license or call sign, you cannot transmit. But you can listen all you want. So I hope this helps lots of people get involved with amateur radio. And I will let you listen to the airwaves. This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo, switching audio back to our software-defined radio.
Broadband Hamnet at 1400 today. W5NGU. KG5 RJR monitoring. Good afternoon, David. I'm just stating that I'm monitoring here, and I'm set up and waiting for lead to check in this afternoon for this afternoon's net, KG5RJR. Yes, I have it loaded, and I am watching it, and I can hear it, and yeah, slight little less delay, which that's, delay sometimes is good with this stuff, because you don't want it to go too short, but yeah, everything looks like it's going well. KF5, SQL, listening. Hamnet.
Okay, Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Bravo Bravo here. Just wanting to tell everybody that the net will go live in about 10 minutes. For everybody watching, thanks for watching. That's all. Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Bravo Bravo, switching audio to our software-defined radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is K5WXR. The digitally speaking net will begin in about 8 minutes. So we've got time. If you need to use a repeater before the net starts, feel free. But I'll be back in probably 7 minutes. K5WXR. My mic is keyed down. Oh, man, how embarrassing. Well, guys, I admit it. It was me. I am K5WXR. I have a notebook here that I decided I'd take notes during the net, and the notebook was heavier than I thought. It managed to push my push-to-talk button without my knowledge. So, sorry about that. K5WXR. I got to tell you, if you could announce yourself when you come back, I'd like to talk to you a bit on the net, if you don't mind, and maybe you could share a little bit about what you're doing. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it. K5WXR. Hey, here I am back in for real. Hi everyone, I'm KBUXR. This is, I'll be NCS, that's that control station for digitally speaking. And that we have every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. right here on 146.92, which is the W5NGU repeater. I probably a little here a little while ago and presented the repeater announcement. I'll go ahead and get that now. That identifies the W5NGU out of Denton County. And seems like something else I should say more later. Well, this week we have some new things going on. We'll talk about here in a little bit. And very, very interesting goings on. I'm kind of a little lost here. In case you tuned in just recently, I accidentally had pressed the mic lock button on my on my microphone here, so I sort of locked up the repeater for a couple of minutes. And again, I apologize for that. You may have even heard me say how embarrassing. Well, yeah, it is pretty embarrassing, but I guess, I'm human too. For those of you that may be listening for the first time, we've been doing this net for a few years. It's every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. It's totally unscripted, unrehearsed, unplanned, actually. Sometimes we plan a little bit, but I'm not following any particular notes or script or any of those kinds of things. What we do is we talk to all of you, give you a chance to check in here in a little bit, and the things that you want to talk about, the things that you bring to the net is the things that we talk about. So if you have a project you're working on, or something you did this week in radio that you'd like to tell everybody about, or something else going on in your life, feel free to, when it gets to be your turn, you basically have the floor. You can say anything you want. We only have a couple of rules we follow. The first one I'm going to mention is the FCC rules. Of course, we follow all of them, especially if we can, or if we, don't forget about some of them. But the one especially I want to remind everyone about is the identify your station at the end of your transmission. That does a couple of things. It lets everybody else know on the net that you're done. It's somebody else's turn, and it also complies with the rules. So you need to be an amateur radio licensed operator to talk on this frequency. However, we use a software called Net Logger, which you can download and install. You can do it right now if you want to, if you've got a computer handy. And you can find this net on Net Logger, called Digitally Speaking. By the way, my name is Lee, and yeah, there's a pun intended. But anyway, once you have the software, you can pull up a little window called Almost Instant Messaging, AIM, and in there you can send messages to the rest of the folks on the net that are watching through NetLogger, and you can, even if you're in a listening mode only, if you're using a scanner or you're on the internet or some other way that you're listening to this, you can contribute if you like to post little notes into Almost Instant Messaging, and someone on the net will read those and will bring them to the net's attention, and they will be your spokesperson. So you may participate no matter where you are in the country or where you are in the world if you can hear this. So should be a fun day today. Hamnet. We have a couple of very special people that I might mention, and I'm not sure because I know one of them is out getting lunch right now, but a fellow named David, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. We'll hear from him in a little bit. There's another couple of radio operators. I'm not absolutely certain if I should throw out their call sign, but I might. KF5JJD, welcome if you're listening, and we call him Lee 2, and of course I'm Lee 1, and then we have Lee 3. So a couple of Lees out there listening today, so this is a special hello to you guys. Let me compose myself here for a moment and get back on track. All right. I was trying to adjust the power settings in my computer since I'm running off a battery, and I really didn't want the screen to keep timing out every 3 minutes and go dark on me and make me log back in. I thought I might be able to fix that before the net started, but that's when I wound up pushing down my key accidentally with the notebook and whatnot. So enough of my personal troubles with the computer. I'll just have to remember to wiggle my mouse pad every couple of minutes here while I'm talking. Let me mention a couple of check-ins, people who have already checked in. Of course, we have myself, K5WXR, and I know I said that really fast. I'll say it again slower so that in case you want to look me up on QRZ or something and, you know, find my home phone number or my email and send me a note or any of that stuff, feel free. Again, my name is Lee, L-E-E, Lima Echo Echo, and my call sign is Kilo 5 Whiskey X-Ray Romeo, K5WXR. And we have logging with us today. Basically our permanent net vlogger. I got another great big thank you. We should all give a round of applause to Scott, KG5RJR. You'll see him checked in if you happen to be on NetLogger, and he's posting things to the almost instant messenger, some internet links to digitallySpeakingNet.net and to a YouTube channel, and a few other things where you'll find as a surprise on NetLogger. We have logged in also. We have well, we should have anyway. We do. David, KD5UBB, I think I mentioned his name. And then Randy, N5VPR, November 5, Victor Papa Romeo, or Viper. Hello, Randy. And Randy is generally some of these nets and posted on the Digitally Speaking website, as well as post links to various things that we talk about. If we give you a website or we give a link or we get some information that is in print somewhere, Randy will capture most of that and put it on the DigitallySpeakingNet.net website. That Randy maintains that site, by the way. And thank you again, Randy. I should mention also we have KG5SQJ. That would be Robert in Aledo. So if I have not mentioned your name and you'd like to check into this net and you'd like to do it now, feel free to come with your call sign phonetically, please, and somewhat slowly would be nice. But we'll capture the call signs of anyone who would like to participate in the net today, and then we'll go by and talk to each of you and see how things are going. And if you have a favorite subject you'd like to hear us talk about today, we'll make note of that. And that's how we develop our agenda. That's how we decide what we're going to talk about today. So it's whatever you bring to that's attention. Like I said, it's all totally off the cuff, nothing rehearsed, nothing planned really, other than the fact that we're going to have a net at 2 o'clock. So let's try that. Anyone that I have not mentioned, would you like to throw out your call sign now? Feel free.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5 Sierra Quebec Lima. Name here is Jeremiah. I'll be using the NetLogger program since my radio strength is not very well.
Thank you, Jeremiah. I just want you to know that we heard your transmission loud and clear. Just a tiny little bit of what sounds like maybe rain on a hot tin roof, but just barely. So you are perfectly fine if you want to continue to participate via voice. And of course, if you want to listen to broadcastify.net or the YouTube or any of those things, feel free to do that, of course. But anyway, does anyone else want to check in if I haven't doubled with you? 5 Hotel Delta Lima, Doug, mobile. Well, I heard a nice, powerful mobile station there, and I believe it was it K5 or KG5 Hotel Delta Lima is what I got out of it. I'm not sure if we got that right.
Would you mind repeating your call sign one more time, please?
Sure thing. Whiskey 5, Hotel Delta Lima.
Whiskey 5, Hotel Delta Lima. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to check in at this time?
This is KG5, KAV, Rob in Argyle.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's nice to hear you on the net today. Anyone else? Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James in Fort Worth. Thank you, James. It was a pleasure hearing you on Tim's net last night, too, by the way. But anyone else? Kilo Golf 5, Oscar India Victor, Dennis and Denton. Well, Dennis, I got to say, you're sounding really, really good today. Nice, powerful, clear voice and whatnot. Good morning. I can see that you're wide awake, I guess. A lot of energy out of your voice today. Anyone else?
D5 RJR comment.
KG5 RJR, please go ahead, Scott.
You have a check-in on NetLogger that is out of Hood River, Oregon. Kilo Fox 7, Kilo Lima Sierra.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you in Oregon. That's I believe that may be a first for this net. I know we've had a few out-of-state visitors in the past, but welcome, and it's nice to know that you found this net okay, and we're able to check in via NetLogger. That's super.
Hamnet.
Let me make a couple of little sort of announcements. I mean, sometimes we say this up front, sometimes it gets blended in somewhere in the thing here. But I just want everyone to feel free. By the way, anyone who's listening, if you hear somebody ask a question and you happen to know the answer, or you have a suggestion or recommendation for someone who may be working on a problem that you have encountered in the past, or something like that, and even if you've not checked in, please, we welcome you to join the net at any time. Don't feel like if you didn't check in, you don't get to participate, because that's not the case. We invite everyone to participate at any time that you want to. And if you happen to go, sometimes we go a long time on the net, and if you have to leave momentarily or something, you come back, you come in and out, and we know that there's a lot of you that listen to the net in the background while you're busy doing some other activity. So please, I hope you feel that you're included in this. Everyone listening is included, and just from my personal perspective, I happen to be sitting at my kitchen table with a mobile radio and power supply and computer and whatnot. And in my mind, I kind of picture all of you sitting around the table or around the living room, where our dining room and living room joins together. You may hear our visiting puppy, and she's not puppy; she's pretty old. But anyway, that would be Ruby chirping in the background, and my wife Lori. You'll hear her occasionally in the background. So we have third-party traffic around here that wants to contribute to the net. And now you know what my environment's like. And in my mind, I picture all of you sitting around the living room having a good old time on a Sunday afternoon. And I just want you to feel welcome and that we're all friends here. So, anything that you want to share, think of this as a friendly environment that we ask that, it's important to all of us that that you share your opinions, and if you hear somebody say something that you don't agree with, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we all have different opinions, and we want to hear each other's opinions. I only request that you do, if you have a contrary opinion, that you do it with respect. I mean, we don't want to insult anybody or needlessly or anything like that. We want to be polite and respectful of other people's opinions, and hopefully they will be respectful of ours, and we all get to share that way. The other thing is that this is Sunday afternoon, and this is kind of a family situation. We have members on this net of all ages, so we want to make sure that we set a good example and avoid profanity and those types of things, and we'll have a good time. Okay, with that, I know that there's probably lots of you out there right now that want to hurry up and check in, but what I'm going to do is kind of mix up the check-ins along with, whatever it is that we're talking about. So feel free that if we're going to greet the people that we've got so far that we know are listening, and after that we'll ask for any of you that have not checked in, if you'd like to check in at that time. Anyway, we'll kind of mix it up. So it's not like we're going to do all the check-ins right up front and then that's going to be it. We're going to be doing this, all afternoon. As long as there's more of you that want to say hello, you are all welcome. Just, it may take a little bit of time for you to get in, but we want to hear from you. So please feel like you are invited to participate. For those of you that are watching that longer, you might see my name up at the top of the list. Well, that's only because I'm NCS and Scott's very polite and puts me on the first person on the list. But thank you, Scott, for that. I get to feel like I'm on top. Anyway, I am Kilo 5, Whiskey X-Ray Romeo. My name is Lee. I live in Highland Village, Texas. And like I said before, I'm here at my kitchen table, and Lori is just here 8 or 10 feet away. Hopefully, throughout the next little while, she'll be doing things like bring me a glass of water once in a while and maybe a chicken nugget or two so that I can nibble in between while you guys are talking. I invite all of you to do the same. If you're mobile, feel free to go through a drive-through somewhere and get yourself something to drink and maybe park under a shade tree or whatever it takes for you to feel comfortable. And, we'll have a fun time this afternoon. At least that's the plan. Okay, next let's go to KG5RJR. This would be Scott. Scott is doing all the stuff in the background today that you're seeing in NetLogger and posting links and reading. I have a little trouble trying to read the screen at the same time my mouth is moving. I'm kind of a one thing kind of guy. I don't multitask very well. So Scott is my partner in this, and he is basically your voice if you are on NetLogger. So thank you again, Scott, for that. And Scott, welcome to the net, and anything you'd like to say, go right ahead.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you for having this net on Sundays. I really enjoy it. I find the weeks that I don't get here to the net that my week just doesn't feel normal. This week, I got to do a session on grounding and bonding on the ham radio, and yeah, I'm going to have to make some changes to my setup here. I really kind of learned a little bit, and I realize I've got a lot to go and a lot more to learn there. Each week, this hobby is unfolding and giving me more and more details and learning more and more. And we got to play a little bit earlier with David with the SDR, getting that set up. So I'm looking forward to today's net and whatever the topics may be. KG5RJR.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much. I might explain here for just a moment. For those of you that are used to amateur radio, I don't need to say this, but for those of you that may be listening for the first time or relatively new to the hobby, um, there's something that we refer to as quick keying, and some of us have the habit of, I'm bad at this too, even after all these years, but you think of something you want to say, and you start your mouth before you actually get the button to press, and slowly clips the first little bit. We call that quick keying. On this repeater, we have lots of remote receivers and whatnot, and it takes a few milliseconds for all that to work. So the best process to follow, I think Scott set a real good example there. You push to talk, and maybe take a breath or wait just a moment, and then start speaking. And when you get all done, you stop speaking, right? And you throw out your call sign, of course. And then you wait just a moment before you take your finger back off the trigger. So that way we don't clip anything at the end, we don't clip anything in the beginning, and we get to hear each and every word that you want to say. So what I'm saying is, when you hear a gap and I don't come back and answer right away, that's intentional. We want to leave some space in between transmissions. So if someone else out there has an emergency or some reason that they need to jump into the repeater, they can throw out their call sign, or they can even use the word break or break to signify an emergency, and their call sign, and we will stop what we're doing. We'll make room for anyone that has something more important going on. And well, anyway, that's kind of how we operate. So don't think it's because we're not paying attention. We're all listening eagerly, but we're also listening to the silence in between transmissions, because there may be a very faint station trying to get in. So we want to listen for just a moment. Hamnet. Let me see, in case I hope I didn't overlook Mark before, but KG5VWJ. Mark, if you're with us, I know that you logged in on NetLogger. What I'm not real sure is, does that mean that you're listening in the background, or whether you actively want to participate here? So I'm going to give you a few seconds to say hello. Mark, anything on your mind today, or any projects going on, or anything you'd like to share with the net, or a favorite subject you want to hear us talk about? Go ahead, KG5VWJ.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. This is Mark, KGVWJ. I got my antenna on my second truck today, and starting to build for the antenna for the house, and so I can move from any of the three locations. And then I'm while I'm sitting here, I'm sitting in my truck with my iced tea and my radio and my NetLogger, and I'm back and forth on the almost instant messenger, and then I'm actually looking at CNC plasma tables. So yeah, I got a little bit going on, but back to the net. Oh, and I'm going to stand up my Arden probably next weekend. So KG5VWJ, back to net.
Cool, man. Maybe I should say Far Out. I still have that Back to the Future movie in mind here, and it's brought back lingo. But if there's anything that we can do to assist in that effort, or if when you get on the air, if you want to test it with anyone or something, feel free to. I think you may have my home phone number. I know you have my email, but you can feel free to contact me at any time of the day or evening that you'd like, and we can help you verify that if we see you on the air or any of those kinds of things. Anyway, I think pretty much everyone that I know that listens to this net seems to be very helpful and eager to help each other in any way that we can. So think of us all as a resource that would like to help any of you that want to with whatever project you're working on. That if you need a hand, let us know.
I know that KG5UBB mentioned that he had to go get something to eat and he would be coming back. David, I'm not sure if you're back yet, but we'll give a shot here just in case you are. KG5UBB, are you back with us yet? Yes, David. Actually, I was planning to do that right now, and I was hoping that you would help me do that. I sort of was waiting for you to get back to before I made that too big of an announcement. I did mention, by the way, YouTube. You can listen to this net today on Broadcastify or RadioReference.com, and also David has set up a YouTube channel, and this net is being broadcast live streaming on YouTube. The link for the YouTube channel, by the way, is in the almost instant messenger window if you found it or clicked on it or copied and pasted into your browser or whatever you have to do to make it work. But I could try to read that, I suppose. But let me, David, if you wouldn't mind, I would really, I think you could probably explain it best what it is that you're doing, and we'd all love to hear you tell us, I think, about what it is that you have set up and how you're going about it. Is this a good time for you to do that? Like, we can go greet all the check-ins and come back to you in a little bit if you'd rather. So, go ahead, David. Again, thank you, David. Thank you very much for that. So, there you go. You could go to YouTube, and I guess you would search on David's call sign, Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Bravo Bravo. He's got a YouTube channel live streaming that I think it was still called W5NGU. Thank you, W5NGU. Digitally Speaking Test, or what was the title that we should search on again, please? Thanks again, David. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. Next up, I'd like to, again, introduce and thank, most of you that have been around here for a while know Randy already, but N5 VPR Viper. Randy, and I know that you, again, also were on that blogger, and you are, listening to this, and a lot of the things that are in AIM, wind up on the digitallyspeakingnet.net website. It's not like they wind up there. You put them on there, and I want to say thank you again for everything you do with regard to that website. I really appreciate it. I think that there's a lot of other listeners here that have been to that site and really appreciate it also. So, but Randy, I'd like to say hello if you're if you're there where you can transmit, welcome to the net again, of course. And how are things going?
Hi, Lee, and everybody in 5VPR. Everything is going well. The recorder for audio is running in the background today, and I'm working on just calling up the web files now. I'll try to put a quick link for the YouTube feed online within just the next few minutes, hopefully well before the net's over with. So we'll look for that shortly. Thanks, Lee, in 5VPR.
Thank you again, Randy. Thank you. Yeah, in case it's easier to remember, I guess you could search it in a number of different ways. But whether you go to YouTube and search, or whether you go to digitallyspeakingnet.net and click the link, or you have NetLogger and you click the link in the AIM window. Lots of different ways. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to KG5SQJ. Robert, I know that you checked in with NetLogger also. I'm assuming you are listening to the radio, and we'll give you here a moment to say hello and anything that's on your mind or any projects you're working on you'd like to share with the group. Feel free. It's your turn, Robert. Go ahead.
Hamnet.
Thank you, Lee. This is KG5SQJ. Go by Bob. And first of all, Lee, thanks for doing net control. And I typically do listen to this, even though I'm not getting into digital radio yet. I'm a relatively new ham, about a year. So I've still got my hands full of HF and other things. As far as new projects, many of you know that I teach classes and teach people how to manually program those cheap Chinese Baofeng radios. I've given that class about 6 or 8 times. I'm scheduled to do it at HamCom in June. Let's see, I'm going to do it once on Friday, twice on Saturday, and once again on Sunday. And so anyway, just in the process of learning about Baofeng radios, I found a Baofeng radio repeater box that only costs about $18. Bought one of those just for the heck of it, and it works surprisingly well. Anyway, in the process of mentioning that at my Tri-County Amateur Radio Club meeting here a week or so ago, I thought, well, hey, we've got an upcoming event that we're going to support, and maybe we can use that because of the topography issues that Simplex caused at that particular event. Some of the locations along the event caused issues with the HD radios not being able to talk to each other due to terrain down in the creek bottom and around the trees and so on and so forth. Let me do a quick reset here. Anyway, because of the Simplex issues, I suggested maybe using this device, but hindsight told me, well, I'm not sure that'd be reliable, and so I did some research on my Kenwood TM V71A mobile radio. Come to find out it has a crossband repeater function that can be engaged that will let the radio be utilized as a repeater, and even includes a repeater ID function that will transmit every 10 minutes to comply with FCC rules for repeater operation. Anyway, so I started a discussion with my club about this, and as with most clubs, there's a million opinions on how to do it, how to come up with a solution. So I'm engaged with an interesting email exchange with my other club members on how we ought to do that, because the club also has those massive duplexer filters. They have to be tuned each time and all that kind of stuff. So we're having some interesting conversations with that. It's a lot of fun listening to all the opinions. Anyway, that's all I've got now that I've probably bored you totally. So I'll go back to net control. KG5SQJ. I'm clear back to you, Lee.
Bob, thank you. Thank you for that. And by the way, I don't think you put anybody to sleep, certainly not me. I would like to talk more about this, if you don't mind. I mean, I'm interested enough, I'd like to do it right now, but I want to give everybody a chance to at least say hello and find out what others want to talk about. But I just so you'll know, I have one of those little boxes, and I have done that as well, but I don't know if it's a matter of how you set the levels or what, but I've had better luck with just plain old patch cords instead of using the little box. And I've even gone as far as getting duplexers to separate UHF and VHF to try to help the desensing of one radio over the other when you're transmitting too close and whatnot. But anyway, I'm real excited. If you don't mind, we can talk more about this maybe in a little while. But if you're going to be around, would that be okay?
Yes, sir, Lee. This is KG5SQJ. Boy, I'm getting a load of static that came in just as you unkeyed there, so I hope you're receiving this clearly. Yes, I'd be happy to discuss that. I'll stand by on the net for a while, and if we don't get a chance to talk today, we can do that some other time. The Denton repeater is one that I monitor all the time. It's on my skis and on my radio, so if we don't get that taken care of today, we can do it another time. KG5SQJ, back to net control.
Thank you very much. And by the way, you were a little staticky before, but this last transmission has been very clear. There's some things I might mention too about things that happen on the back. Thank you. Hang on a sec. A special howdy and thank you to folks like Gerald, WB5NZB, and Andrew, KE5 GDB, and I'm not sure who all may be out there working on things today, but the folks that really keep this stuff going for Denton County Amateur Radio Association and a whole lot of other clubs in the vicinity, they generally have a work party out there working on Sunday afternoons, and one of the things they do is listen to this net periodically, and if they need to adjust something or realign some transmitters or repeaters or transmission levels or all that stuff that happens to make all this work. Sometimes they do that during this net because they know that we're going to go on for an hour or something and relatively constant communication, and it's a good time for them to actually test things and adjust things. So if you hear it fading in and out or adjusting things or whatever, we really, all of us on this net and all of us in the clubs, really appreciate everything that they do. And if we can help them in any way, like talk for an hour and give them something to use as a guide for they don't have to put up test signals and tones and all the things you might have to do to set up a test. They can just listen to us and align things and do what they need to do. And if we can help do that, like keep the conversation going, so be it. In other words, rather than just gabbing to each other like we're doing, we're actually helping the equipment work better and helping the folks that maintain it. You know what I mean? I'm blabbering. I'm using like 50 words when probably 5 words would work, but I just want to say thank you, and if we can help in any way, please let us know. Okay, I have to, I'm not sure if I need to make an apology to Bob or not, who is KG5SQL, or if it's Jeremiah, KF5SQ. I did make the tongue twist here that I was worried about. KG5SQJ was Bob, and KF5SQL is Jeremiah. So I'm saying this to both of you. I'm sorry if I have intermixed your call letters there. But Jeremiah, welcome to the net, Jeremiah, and thank you for joining. And how are things going with you today? And is there a favorite subject you'd like to hear us talk about, or anything you'd like to share with the group? Please go right ahead. I'm talking now to KF5L.
Thank you. This is KF5SQL. Name here is Jeremiah, once more. There's actually two things. I'm working on a CR8900A antenna project, trying to get it mounted to my brand new car without putting holes in it, so I can use my ST8900R in the car. That's number one. I want to know more about how amateur radio plays in with the ubiquity access points, and if you could use any ubiquity access point for that matter, such as the UAP Pros or anything like that, because I'm planning on buying one for the house, and I might say, hey, let's just buy another one just to play around with it. So is it possible? The second thing is, or the third thing, Hamnet.
Jeremiah, when you got to your third thing, the repeater announced, and I didn't catch your third item. Would you mind saying that one again, please?
I also want to make a mobile echo link station using something like a blaster, one of those blaster things. I forget the name of it right offhand. And Raspberry Pi and a Verizon wireless access point, Wi-Fi access point type thing, personal hotspot rather. And see if I can make a mobile echo link station to get communications out further.
You gotta say, wow, that's wonderful. We can yak about all that stuff, by the way, and yes, it's all doable. Especially the Arden stuff, the ubiquity equipment and routers. Love to talk more about that. The Echo Link, yeah, there's lots we can talk about Echo Link. Your first item, the CR8900. Could you just real briefly explain what that is, or do you have a question about that? You were talking about mounting and like how to drill holes, or what exactly type of, tell me again what the question is about that part.
The CR8900A is a quad band antenna. It's matched with the Yaesu FT8900R. It's an antenna that is paired with that radio. It's made specifically for that radio. And I have a brand new car. It's a little hatchback Toyota CHR that I want to mount this antenna onto. Currently, right now, I have a mag mount 2 meter, 70 centimeter antenna on the car, but that's not going to cover all the bands that the radio could cover. So I need to get that the CR8900A somehow attached to the car without putting any holes into the body of the vehicle. I saw some sort of trunk mount, things like that, but it needs to be low enough on the vehicle that I can pull it into the garage without. Sorry about this. This is KF5SQL. Without damaging the antenna or the garage, because if I put it on top of the vehicle, it's way too long. I wouldn't even fit inside the garage at all.
Well, I do have some suggestions for you, and I think that there may be a number of folks on the net that would love to give you some suggestions as well. And I imagine there's a variety of opinions I myself, I have a couple that may be controversial that most of the ham radio community would argue probably that what I might recommend is not exactly the best way to do it. And I would actually admit that it's not the best way to do it, but it may resolve your situation. Just before we, what I'd like to do is come back to this. I want to say hello to everybody who has checked in so far. We'll come back to this issue. But before we do, can you just, the length of the antenna that you want to mount, how long would you say that antenna is approximately?
It's 46 inches long in its entirety.
Oh, okay, cool. Think about mag mounts, and if I forget to come back, remind me at some point, or just a little bit, that there's a number of different types of magnetic mounts available that could probably support that pretty well. But we'll come back to that if you don't mind. Will you be around for a little bit?
I'll be around as long as somebody's talking on this frequency.
Hooray! That's what we like to hear. Thank you. We'll come back. But first, let's go to HDL. I have a little bit of eye issue here. If that was a Q for Quebec, or the letter O for Oscar, or if that was a D like Delta. But so if I misunderstood your call, I'm sure that HDL, as in a first name Hal, and middle initial and last name. So thank you very much for doing the net. Would you like to say a few words and tell us what's on your mind, and maybe if there's a particular subject you'd like to talk about? Oh my, I hope I didn't insult you in any way. If I did, please forgive me. And if you're off and away and listening and you're not close to your transmit button, that's perfectly fine. We understand that. But I'm going to give another 5 seconds here, see if you're back close to your radio. And if you're not, and you can hear me, please, anytime you come back closer to your radio in the next half hour or whatever, feel free to come back whenever there's a gap. Let us know that you're back available. So, Hal, W5HDL, it's up to you, bud. Okay, we'll move right along. Rob, hey, I see you're not out traveling today, and it's nice seeing you at the meeting the other day. What's up, Rob? KG5KAV.
This is Golf 5, Kilo Alpha Victor. Just wanted to say good afternoon to Lee and the net, and Scott, and all the others that are doing such a great job. And once again, Lee, thanks for having this net for so many years and leading the charge here. Just want to say thanks to everybody. Just a couple things real quick. Let me reset. I wanted to thank the gentleman, I forgot his name, but the one that's putting up the net on Broadcastify, because I learned that Andrew did a session on DMR, I think it was, a couple weeks ago, and so I can go back and look at that. And so that's exciting that I can go back and hear that DMR part again. So that's really exciting to have that kind of archival system. I want to thank, I think it's Bob, that's doing the programming for the Bofang.
just to say how important that is, there's a lady at our CERT team that needs to have her Bofang programmed once she takes her test. She has the radio and will take the test in August, but here's another candidate that really will need help programming that difficult radio. And finally, this is KG5KAV. I wanted to ask a question for later on in the session. I had heard on one of the nets, I don't remember which one, but during this past week or so, that regarding DMR, that the statewide is now, I think this is the one on Roston or controlled by the club, but it's now Talk Group 1 versus what it was previously. So if anybody knows if that's correct, that'd be nice if they could pass that on the net. I would appreciate that feedback. But just want to thank Lee and the leaders for this great net. And back to net control, this is KG5KAV.
Hamnet. 5 TCN. Check in.
That's W5TCN. Jim, checking in. Great to have you. Jim, is there something that you wanted to interject at this point about DMR or anything like that?
A lot of bright minds out there learning a lot of technology.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Let me ask, we're still kind of, I know we're kind of slow at the check-in process, if you might say. It's not the checking in so much as the greeting and giving everybody a chance to say hi. This is really what this net is. I mean, for those of you that are used to regular radio nets where you check in real quick and then you expect a big presentation and stuff, I just want everyone to know that think of this net as more of a social hour, that we're all friends, we're all sharing whatever we want to talk about, and if you were all crowded around my living room right now and everybody's trying to talk at once, well, obviously we're on radio, so we can't all talk at once. So we're kind of like going around the room getting everybody a chance to talk. So that's how it goes. But let me kind of interrupt that progression for just a minute and ask. Rob mentioned a question that was helpfully quick to answer. I'd like to know if there's a DMR guru out there that is familiar with the talk groups or any kinds of changes, or especially what's happening on the Roston DMR repeater. Does anyone have an answer to Rob's question about did the talk group change for statewide? Anyone have that? Come to your call sign, please.
5RJR.
Scott, please, go right ahead.
Definitely far from a DMR guru, but I can definitely use my Google foo and come up with North Texas DMR and the DMR net. And that's at dmrtexas.net. If you look up the Denton, Texas DMR repeater, the statewide has been moved to time slot 1, and Metro has been moved to time slot 2. So the two are separated, and they will not be interfering with one another. Again, that's dmrtexas.net, and if you look up under repeaters for North Texas, you can see all of the repeaters there and where those are at. KG5RGR.
Scott, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And Jason, if you're listening, thank you for putting that on your net. Let me ask Rob. Rob, did that help?
K5WXR, this is KG5KV. That really helps. Boy, it's so nice to have all these smart people around. Scott, thank you very much. I will go get that and reprogram my little I guess it's 380. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lee. This is KG5KAV, back to net control.
Thank you. And I probably got tongue-tied. It's not net necessarily. The website is what is on my mind, although he does the net thing too. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Thanks for the question, Rob, and we'll come back to some of these other items here in just a minute. Let's go first, though, to KG5 PMN. I know that sounds like M's and N's. Mike November. Papa Mike November. James, in Fort Worth, of course. How is everything going? And anything on your mind you'd like to share with the group, or questions or projects you're working on that you'd like to share? Go right ahead.
Okay, 5 p.m. It's James down here in Fort Worth. Right now I'm just listening and monitoring. I haven't gotten into digital too much yet. I thought the DMR net was kind of interesting a couple weeks ago. Send it back to the net, KG5 p.m. in.
Thank you very much, James. And by the way, for anyone else that may be listening as well, that please don't. If you think I'm putting you on the spot, requesting you to say something you don't want to say or anything like that, I'm not helping you, James. I mean, just everybody. Feel free. Just if you just want to say hello and just let us know you're there. You don't have to have a question. You don't have to share anything if you don't want to. You could even say no traffic if you wanted to, but. We just, like I said, we like to be friends. The more we know about each other, the friendlier we get. So that's kind of why we do this. We're not trying to put anybody on the spot. So let's go next. KG5 OIV, talking about on the spot. Hey, Dennis, welcome to the net. I'm assuming that you're still there, and like I said before, you're sounding really good on your voice and radio performance today. So love to hear whatever you've got to say.
Well, thank you, Lee. Thank you, everyone on the net. It's been interesting so far, and as always on every Sunday afternoon. Oh, reason I'm probably sounding so good is a full charge on the little handheld, and I've got the YouTube live chat running, and everything's looking good on it. Oh, thank you for putting that up, KG5UBB. It's an interesting way to get the digitally speaking system out there. This is KG5 OIV, back to net control.
Oh. Terrible thing to do, cough as soon as you push the talk button. Don't you just hate it when that happens? Wow. My darling, my favorite squeeze, I guess is what you call her. So I don't know if different people have different nicknames for their spouses or significant others or your best friends or your partners for life, whatever way you want to look at it. But she seems to be able to interpret my behavior and brings me little chicken nuggets when she thinks that I need to pick me up, and brings me a glass of water even before I require it. So I just want to say thank you again. Let me see if I can get back to where we were.
RTR comment.
KG5 RJR, go ahead, please.
Rob actually posted a link in the IM for Rob, and Rob, I'll go ahead and I'll forward that on to Dennis so we can get that up on the website, as well as if you want to drop me an email at kg5rgr@hotmail.com. I can forward this link direct to you. It is manual information about how to program the Baofeng radio. It is the PDF that he suggested, and I will make that available to you if you want to email me your email address. KG5RGR.
Thank you, Scott. I don't know, do we need a comment? Let me give it a chance. Anybody else need to comment on that?
Hamnet.
KG5KAV.
Rob, go ahead.
Scott, thank you so much. I'll send you my email address and I'll provide the copy to that lady at the CERT, just because for her to feel encouraged. The reason I say that is because Tuesday I'm going to attempt to train some people on that are part of the CERT team that went out and purchased a fairly expensive radio, a Yaesu VXR-8 or VXR-8 like 3 years ago in 2010, and really don't know how to use their radios. So someone programmed them, but they're just not comfortable. So there's people in CERT that made investments that we can help by just supporting them and providing some training or paperwork. So thank you very much. This lady with the Balfam actually bought her radio and isn't even licensed yet. She plans to take the test. So Scott, thanks very much, and I'll send you my email. This is KG5KAV, back to Net Control.
Rob, thank you. Thank you for that. Thanks for the comments and all of the sharing, and everyone, by the way, who's been helpful. It's I got like 5 things zooming through my mind. I can't talk about all of them at the same time, but Rob, perhaps I'll send you an email, after that today too. Tell you what, I want to go first to this is actually I guess a statement more than anything. Timothy in Hood River, Oregon, is the next check-in on our list. However, according to that logger, they may have checked out already. But KF5 KLS, Kilo Lima Sierra. If you happen to be listening, or if you're back, listening or whatever, I just wanted to say thanks again. Welcome to our net here in Texas, and it was a pleasure knowing that you're out there listening. So, well, thank you for that. KA0IQT, excuse me, James in Tioga. I know that you are listening on Broadcastify and that you're on NetLogger. I'm not sure if you needed to check out or if you're still there or what, but feel free if you want to make a comment, on NetLogger or whatever. Feel free, or I'll give you a few seconds now just in case you made it to a radio and you'd like to say hello. Please feel free. Well, another person I'd like to say hi to is Paul, K5VOP, Victor Oscar Papa. I caught the note about it being noisy, I suppose, in your spot, or I'm not exactly sure how to interpret the note, but if you can check in, or you have checked in, of course, via NetLogger, and if you would like to say a few words now, that would be wonderful. If you are not in a spot to do that, of course, we all understand. So, first to Paul, we'll give a few seconds of airspace here to see if you're available to talk, and if not, perhaps Scott, would you like to share a bit about Paul's contact? But first is Paul.
I will attempt to do this. I just don't want to subject everyone to the noise that's in my office. Thanks for the net again, Lee, and I'm always listening. I got my antenna and my station all bonded. So my SWRs all dropped to just above 1 to 1.5 at the highest, from somewhere as high as 2 to 1. So the bonding works, and the noise is no longer in my speakers or kids' headphones and their PCs and stuff. So very happy that that fixed some of those problems. And that's about it, Lee. K5VOP, back to net.
Paul, I've got to say, you know, you're just a confirmation of what you just said, that there's no noise or anything detectable by me, at least coming out of my radio. The radio I'm using is a Kenwood D700, and it has a fan, and that fan makes a little bit of fan noise, so I may not be the best person to really scrutinize, you know, noisy background, but you sound really, really good, but you've always sounded good to me, so, you know, I'm, like I said, I'm probably not the best judge of that, but I appreciate you mentioning the bonding and that improves SWR. I just personally never really thought about it from a SWR standpoint or, you know, reflected wave standpoint. It's always been, you know, basically 4 different reasons why we bond and ground, at least in my mind. Of course, the Kens have given really good presentations, and there's another one coming up in WARC next month on it too. But the Ken AC5 EZ and KD2 KW, if you're listening, I didn't mean to just like blur you all together, but I'm going to mention them right now. Or maybe Paul, I'll put you on the spot. Tell me, why did you bond and ground?
Well, initially, I bought that new ARRL book, Grounding and Bonding, because I just like to learn. Everything I read is something that helps me learn or be more self-sufficient or self-reliant. And then the Kens were talking about it, which kind of gave me the final push. But I've had quite a bit of quite a bit of RFI issues. Certain frequencies on the HF bands would come across on home theater subwoofer and my kids' headphones. They'd hear screeching or whatever, and sometimes they could hear a full voice as if the subwoofer was a radio. So initially I was doing it just because I knew I had to, and then talking with some other people that know more than me, like Andrew and such, they said my RFI issues may be solved by bonding as well. So let me break. So I went ahead and did that yesterday using a technique that KC5LL showed me a video on. I was able to put the 8-foot ground rods in. So I have a solar panel set up, and what's interesting is they put their ground rod 12 feet away from my home ground. So that was 12 feet of my distance there. So I went another 12 feet, three more times to my antenna. So I actually have 12 feet between each ground rod. But I was able to put all those ground rods in that KC5LL Laird gave me information on with a number 10 can thing of water and manually with my hands pounding it down in without really much effort at all, and only needed to use my mallet the last 6 inches or so. Let me break. But it's a technique of just digging a very small hole so there's a place for the water to go, and put the ground rod in, pound it down a couple times, not with a hammer, just with your hands, and pull it out, put more water in, pound it down, pull it out, put more water in, and that I put 3 8-foot ground rods in and bonded them all together with some 6-gauge copper in less than probably 45 minutes. No, not an hour, but maybe 45 minutes was closer. And I still have yet to bury the copper cable. I'm going to go ahead and put that about 4 or 6 inches under later, but very happy with the results. So I did it mostly to get rid of the noise, knew I needed to, and very happy with the SWR results as well. K5VOP, back to net.
Hamnet.
That is a very interesting technique. Thank you for sharing that about the water and the whatnot. That's I could visualize you as you were describing that. I could just see it happening. Just for you or for anyone else, by the way, if you're going to be doing this kind of thing in the future, there are some tools to help drive, ground rods. There's even some hydraulic or even electric ones, I understand, that have a little hammer. I have fence posts. Very common. A lot of people have fence post drivers. And a fence post driver works pretty well, at least in my experience. But it does take a little bit of manual effort. They have some that have little hydraulic hammers. They work a little bit like an air hammer in the top of them, and you just put them on there, and it just goes boom, 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 drives the thing right down to the ground. But the water technique, what a good idea! So thanks to Laird, I guess, is who pointed that out to you. That's a great idea. I've done ditches and buried wires that way. You just barely scrape the hard surface enough that you can get some water in that little ditch, and then you come and scrape that mud out, and then put more water in the ditch, and you scrape that out, and eventually you do that enough times, you wind up with a ditch deep enough you can bury your cable. But I never thought about that for the ground rod part. But thank you. What I was thinking of, let me reset the timer. Some of us had a conversation at lunch the other day, about grounding and bonding and whatnot. But there's basically just stuff for everybody's information, and anybody wants to contribute to this concept here in a little while. We got a couple more folks waiting to say hello, and I want to get to them before I go too far into this subject. But just, there's basically four, at least in my mind. There may be more. Maybe you guys can share and let me know what the other reasons why you actually ground things or bond things, whatever. But reasons that we would either ground things or bond those things together, or if you were in Europe and you call it earthing or whatever. That's we have chassis grounds and you have actual earth ground. But so some people tease some of the other countries about how they speak, but in some cases I think they may be more accurate than we are. But anyway, you have lightning protection as an issue. You have safety from you don't want to be shocked or something when you have different equipment plugged in different places. You have RF propagation, so you have basically a ground plane type things, your radios and all that stuff. And then you have audio noise. You get audio noise from ground loops and things in your shack. So those are four separate categories of things that can be solved or resolved or something in similar ways, or by doing certain techniques that Paul just told us about. But it's really the reasons that we're doing this, maybe for one of four different reasons, or maybe all four different reasons. And the last one that Paul talked about, the SWR, is something I kind of forget about. I mean, I appreciate you, Paul, for bringing that out, pointing out that it lowered your SWR. That's an added benefit that I wasn't really thinking about, but that sounds perfectly logical that would happen. So, thank you, Paul. Let me go next to a W5TCN. Unless did I skip? No, I thought maybe I skipped somebody. Jim, if you're still with us, how are things going? And appreciate you coming on the net today. And anything particular on your mind that you'd like to share with the group, or subject that you'd like to talk about? W5TCN. Jim, are you still with us? Okay, we'll go to KG5QYC. Dan in the colony. I know you logged in on NetLogger, but just in case you're on the radio also, we'll give you a chance to say hello. How is everything going? I gotta say that it's probably taken an hour here to say hello to the first 16 people. I feel bad for any of you that may have been saying, when is it going to get to be my turn? And I don't. If I could speed this up somehow, I probably would, but I don't know exactly how to do that. You know, I'm kind of a yacker, and I like to give everybody else a chance to say whatever they want to say. And you know, this is a friendly a radio net. At least we try to be as friendly as we can. So yeah, I know it takes a long time for some of you that have been waiting to perhaps check in, but we are at a spot here that. A logical spot to ask. Any of you that have been patiently waiting that would like to say hello, would like to perhaps actually check into the net, please feel free to come down with your call sign.
Also Golf Victor.
Welcome, Eric. Welcome. Anyone else?
KD5YSD. This is John in Denton.
John, thank you, John. Nice to have you. Anyone else?
Golf 5 Tango Kilo India, mark the colony.
Thank you, Mark. I'm not sure if Scott got that. I know your voice. I know your call. But if you wouldn't mind, giving us your call one more time, please.
Kilo Golf 5 Tango Kilo India.
KG5TKI. And I just want to tell you thank you again for all the plans and the conversations we've had before about making power supplies out of computer power supplies, things like that. I happen to have one of those sitting right here next to me. Makes a wonderful power supply. The computer was actually a server, I guess, type power supply. But anyway, neither here nor there. We'll get to that in a second. Let me reinforce something I said earlier, and that is, even if you've not checked in, you know, when it comes time, if there's a blank spot in the conversation and you want to say hi, feel free to jump right in with your call sign, of course, and get recognized, and then you know, you get to jump right in. But if you have a comment about something somebody says and you'd like to share that at that time, please feel free. We don't have a particular schedule of what we talk about when. It's all, you know, whatever comes to mind at that particular moment. So if you have a thought that you want to share, feel free. Don't worry about changing the subject. Just, you know, jump in whenever you think it's appropriate and ask whatever you want to ask, or answer whatever question you want to answer, or just comment. You know. So. But with that in mind, let's go back to John, KD5YSD. John, welcome to that, and how's things going in your life? And is there something particular you'd like to share with the group, or a favorite subject you'd like to hear us talk about?
Him. Yes, I do. The Lifeline Church in South Denton is hosting a Heartland response team for churches in Denton and Wise County. And they're having a CERT team meeting on April the 5th. I believe it's being promoted as a CERT training. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Well, hey, thank you very much. Oh, by the way, my name is Lee. I'm K5WXR. This is the Digitally Speaking Net, and we're here every week, every Sunday afternoon, 2 p.m. So feel free to come back and join us at any time. All of us, by the way, anybody who can hear me out there. radio world or the internet world. Just to let you know that we're here every week. And if you've got something to share with the group, we'd love to hear what it is. I need to apologize to Eric here. Somehow I blinked or something and skipped right over AG5GV. So, John, we appreciate the sharing the thing about CERT. And but I need to go to Eric, AG5GV. Eric, please, how are things going?
Not too bad, my friend, and don't worry about skipping over me. I'm just traveling down the road headed to work. Had a really good weekend ham radio. As I said last weekend that the bands would be open about Wednesday, and guess what? The bands were open Wednesday. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun on MTA and voice. And matter of fact, 10 meters, 12 meters, and 15 meters is open right now. So a little bit of space weather later on if you want. And I do have a question. I got an email from the Dakar leadership wanting to know if people would be willing to sign up for the LARC National Parks on the Air. And I would love to, but there's no date, so I don't know when that is, and I didn't have time to look it up. So if anybody knows when that is, I'd like to sign up so I can, plan ahead and take those days off. Definitely on a weekend, I would imagine, but there's no date on the email, so if anybody knows, fill me in. Thank you. AG5GV, back to you.
Oh, I'll bet there's a dozen people on the air right now that know the answer to that. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. It's real soon. I thought it was like next weekend, but I might be missing. It's like the last weekend in March or last weekend in April. Anyway, who knows the date of Texas State Parks on the Air? Anybody, please come with your call sign. 5BOP. I'm terribly sorry, Paul, that I just don't know that one off the top of my head. But please go ahead, Paul.
Glad he said that because I actually sent that mass email out and completely forgot about it. I'll put a date. I think there might be a date on the survey. If you follow that link, I think at the top of that I put a date. But it's the 7th and 8th is the contest. We will be there. Well, Gerald and I will be there for sure on the 5th to secure 3 camp spots. So the survey asks the questions we need to know, and you can come out just to hang out. You can come out. We're going to have a late Saturday a lunch with some bratwurst. You can camp if you want. You can operate. You don't have to operate. Just come out and have some fun out in the state park. So again, that's the 7th and 8th is the contest, and we'll be out there from noon on the 5th till noon on the 8th. K5VOP back to net.
Thank you very much. And to further clarify, we're talking about a week away, right? It's the first weekend in April, first full weekend in April. This is March, right? We got another week or so in March, and then there's maybe it's 2 weeks. I don't even know. I don't have a calendar in front of me. And you're talking about April. Is that correct?
Actually, it's April. And then on the Texas State Parks on the Air website, tspota.org, it explains how it happens because sometimes it may conflict with Easter, so it alternates. But this year it is that first weekend in April. K5VOP back to that.
Thank you very much. And while we're talking about that first week in April, let me point out too that the Medal of Honor ride, this is an annual event where the Medal of Honor awardees from across the country fly into DFW and go up to an honors ceremony in Gainesville, and amateur radio operators come out and along with lots of other folks and help with spotting road traffic or whatever when they basically do wheels up in DFW and drive in a long, fun-filled motorcade, lots of motorcycles and vehicles and emergency equipment and other things, go from DFW Airport to Gainesville without stopping. They they do not stop once they leave, and they do this in the middle of rush hour on from DFW Airport to Gainesville. And it's an amazing event that they are able to do that, and that we as amateur radio operators get to contribute by staking out a spot along the way, and we spot for stalled cars or debris in the road or anything that may delay the procession, and give traffic reports and make sure that intersections are cleared and that sort of thing. So anyway, if anyone wants to participate in that, I believe that it's open. I don't believe you need to be an ARES member or anything like that, or a Denton County Amateur Radio Association member, or any other club event. But I know that there is a sign-up form on the DCARA, the Denton County Amateur Radio Association, DCARA, DCARA.net. There's a sign-up form if you'd like to assist in that effort, and that happens to be on Wednesday afternoon, just before the Texas State Power Run here. It's like April 5th is when I don't know the actual date, but I know it's Wednesday. So anyway, there you go. I'm sure there's lots of other events coming up, and we'll probably get to that. We'll repeat some of the things on the calendar later, but you reminded me of that. Thank you.
KG5 RJR comment.
KG5 RJR, go right ahead.
Posted the sign-up link for the Medal of Honor ride, and it says the event is on April 4th.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Is that a Wednesday, or did I get the days of the week mixed up also?
15 hours, 30 minutes, 71 degrees.
That is a Wednesday, April 4th.
Okay, Roger, thank you. Roger, Jolly Roger. That was Scott, by the way. I know people look at his call sign and call him Roger, but I'm sorry about that. I don't think I've given away any secrets here. But anyway, what I'd like to do next is go to Mark in the colony, KG5TKI. Mark, I hope you didn't think that I was ignoring you earlier or anything, but we'd love to hear anything that you might have on your mind or anything you want to share with the group. Please feel free to go right ahead.
Thank you, Lee. I've been absent from the net for a little while. Had some surgery that kind of got me down for a little bit, but I'm back. I did have, as the conversation ever goes around to Arden, I had a couple of questions. One is, I guess, what applications should be used by each of the different devices, or those devices, I guess, lend themselves to particular applications, and what are those? And then, secondly, is there a FAQ somewhere or a top 5 questions that anyone interested in getting into Arden should answer? KG5TKI. Hamnet.
Those are excellent questions. And the other gentleman at the beginning of that also asked some things about Arden and the equipment and ubiquity equipment and things. And this is probably a real good time to mention some of that, because some of the answers, some of what I'm going to say about the FAQ and other things, the frequently asked questions, the same answers are for both. So unless there's something else urgently that we should get into, let me just say a few words about Arden. I could start with actually I should start with the definition of the word, the acronym AREDN. And actually I've heard it a number of different ways, but I know what it really is, but I know also how it's used. But I'll get to that in a second. But one of the frequently asked questions, or one of the frequently thought of preconceived notions when people hear about Arden, that I would like to dispel that rumor immediately. The top one that I'd like to dispel is Arden, the Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, or that can be used in times of a disaster. So it is also referred to as Amateur Radio Emergency Disaster Network. It's also used on an every day of the week kind of thing. You don't have to wait for an emergency before you're allowed to use it, the day in and day out, every day. It is an internet-like capability in that it uses TCP/IP type traffic signaling over amateur radio to provide the types of connectivity that you could do on the internet. And the rumor that I want to dispel right up front is it is not, absolutely not, a method for amateur radio operators to get free internet service so they can watch Netflix movies for free. You know, that is not what it is. Okay, that's my top number one answer for almost everything else. However, it is Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network. It is TCP/IP type traffic, and virtually anything that you can do over that type of a medium, meaning voice over IP, meaning like text and email, and the types of things that you do. It is a packet delivery, and if I were to ask you, I don't mean to pick on any one individual, but just generally speaking, is that what is the internet? Think for a moment. How would you answer the question if someone never knew what it was, and you said, and somebody asked you, what is the internet? How would you answer that? Anyone want to answer? Come on, this is a little game, a little fun event. There's no right or wrong answers. If somebody asks you what is the internet, somebody's around a call sign and tell me, how would you respond? Oh, perfect response. KG5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. How would you describe the internet? Oh, thank you, David. That was almost word for word what I was hoping somebody might say. So, thank you. Perfect example. A lot of people might respond with things like, "Oh, you get to go online shopping, and ooh, I can do banking, and ooh, I can watch movies, and ooh, I can do these things. All these things you do." None of those is actually the internet. The internet is a connection, is a method of sending packetized data across a medium. And that medium might be microwave, it might be wires, it might be fiber optic, it might be copper, it might be coax. It could be any number of ways of delivering packets from one spot to another. Each of these packets have a little address on a from and to that they go out on their merry way across the medium, a communication path. The internet is simply a bunch of different communication methods strapped together, connected together, so that little packets of information can be sent from one location and arrive at another location. And at the other location, they could be put back together and provide something that's meaningful. And that meaningful thing could be a mail order thing, something you purchased on eBay or Amazon. It could be banking. It could be a lot of different things. But those are all applications. Those are websites, or those are music, or those are things on top of the internet. It is not the internet itself. The internet itself is like ham radio is. Ham radio is a radio, is the transmission of sound. It's not what we say. I mean, what we're saying to each other, that's a communication that's writing those airwaves. So don't think so much about Arden as what's writing on top of it, what applications you might be able to use it for. Arden itself is simply the connectivity to send packets from one place to another. Thank you very much, David. So I don't know if there were the five top questions. I guess I don't know if there's five top questions. It depends on who's asking the questions. You got little different levels of things. Some of them that were asked earlier today about the equipment, like Ubiquiti products. Can Ubiquiti products be used around your house for Wi-Fi and whatnot? And yes, of course they are. That's what they're built for. That's what they're made for. They are Wi-Fi type devices. I think the other question was, will all Ubiquiti devices work for Arden? And in a manner of speaking, I don't want to give out like wrong information, or it would be misleading for me to say yes when one way of thinking the answer is yes, but I really need to say no. There's only specific models that support Arden. I need to clarify this just a bit, and it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I'm going to explain. Arden, some of the earlier names before we actually had Arden, similar concepts, the same concept is, it's mesh networking. You may have heard of mesh networking. There are other ways to do mesh networking with DDWRT, where you modify some Linksys equipment and stuff, is how that started out, but it's expanded way beyond that. There was broadband hamnet, which used a variety of different kinds of things and whatever to make that happen, but that's a very similar, mesh networking. Arden is like the second generation or third generation of BBHN. You have what the ARRL originally called HSMN, High-Speed Multimedia. I may have said November instead of Mike, but it's HSMN. High-Speed Multimedia is what it was originally referred to at the earlier publications.
Hamnet.
But the more practical way to describe it is internet-like over amateur radio. It's not the public internet. However, the operation of it works pretty much the same way, but the medium is amateur radio, and we operate Arden in the 13 centimeter band of amateur radio, which includes, when you start looking at the bands, there's an area up in the spectrum around 2 gigahertz that's referred to as the ISM, the Industrial, Scientific, and Medical band. And in that band, there are a number of different things, including ham radios, some government services, microwave ovens, medical devices of all sorts, and there's a lot of stuff that happened in the ISM, Industrial, Scientific, and Medical band. Amateurs, licensed amateur radio operators, have a portion of that we're the primary users of. We're secondary in some cases, or even third in some cases. But in 12 centimeter band, 12.5 centimeters, ARRL refers to it as 13 centimeter band. approximately 13 centimeters. But the frequency that we use for Arden in this part of the world, certainly in Denton County, is 2.397 gigahertz, or 2,397 megahertz. So that is below standard Wi-Fi. Standard Wi-Fi starts at channel 1 of standard Wi-Fi is 2.412 is the center frequency with a 20 megahertz bandwidth. So it goes down a little bit and up a little bit, and they kind of overlap if you know about how Wi-Fi works. You know, the channels 1 through 11 that they have in the United States, for example. But that's a whole fun discussion, but that's what we're trying to talk about right here. Okay, so Arden in Denton County operates at channel -2, right? It's a little bit below standard Wi-Fi, so where you're not interfering with them, they're not interfering with us, and all the thousands and thousands of home routers out there and whatnot are really slightly in a different category, but not by much. For Arden, to create an Arden node, or if you want to operate on Arden, this is not going to be a real technical description, but generally speaking, if you want to take this commercial, off-the-shelf device that operates under like FCC Rules Part 15, which is where Wi-Fi and all that stuff is, and you decide that you want to run Arden, we'll turn it into an amateur radio, so to speak. We're going to take the firmware, put different firmware in the thing, and it will no longer be a regular Wi-Fi router. It will become an Arden node, and that software, you can download the software from a website called arden.org, AREDN, Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network. It's easier for you to think of it as a disaster network. That's kind of why it's there. That's how we one reason why we do it is so when the internet goes down in terms of a really wide disaster outage, and you don't have your cell phones, and you don't have your cable TV, and all you have left is amateur radio. There's a lot of amateur radio modes that operate, that can handle past digital, but this one is high speed digital, like the internet, or sort of like the internet, like megabits anyway. Okay, and yes, one of the features that we have is an internet gateway, so that we can link Arden to the internet. So if the internet is down, say, right here around my house, for example, I'm in Highland Village, and if this part of the county were to lose traffic, I lose internet capability, I could get on Arden, use my ham radio to connect to. Remember now, when I say my ham radio, I'm not talking about the one I'm talking on right now. I'm talking about my Arden node, this Wi-Fi router that I converted to work on amateur frequencies. I can use that to connect to other Arden nodes, and they all kind of link together and pass traffic back and forth, and I can wind up getting an internet connection, say, out of the other side of Denton, or perhaps go through Ross and 30 miles away and grab an internet connection up in another county. So it is possible to make emergency internet connections over Arden, but they need to be amateur radio type things, like the Weather Service to look at a radar map or those kinds of things. Over amateur radio, we are not allowed to use things like encryption, for example. So you really do not want to be doing your home banking, although it may be physically possible to do so. You don't want to be sending any encrypted traffic around. You don't want to be doing anything commercial, like buying things from Amazon or whatever. That amateur radio is not a commercial venture. It's a hobby adventure, and we're basically not allowed to do commercial activities over amateur radio. So That's why I'm trying to make it absolutely clear. Please don't confuse it with the internet. But that is how it operates. It operates in that same style, the same manner, the same types of things like DNS and addressing and TCP/IP and all that internet type stuff is how it operates. Okay, which devices are capable of running the firmware that we have? The Arden group, the Arden.org, the organization that's designed and built all this stuff and is doing all the updates on it and whatever. They're all volunteers for one thing, but at Arden.org, AREDN.org, is the organization that's website. Basically, it'll tell you everything that I just told you already, but it also gives a list of the equipment, the model numbers of the equipment that they have written software for, firmware, that you can download into the devices that they list. And pay attention to the list, pay attention to the model numbers, pay attention to the version numbers. All of this stuff is very important because some version it works on, some version it doesn't. And follow their directions explicitly. Don't skip any steps. They tell you, they very carefully list out exactly what you need to do, depending on what the version is. And my advice is to probably print it out and check it off as you go along, and do not skip any steps, even if they don't seem like you really are necessary. Do exactly what it says. So when you're done with that, and you have an Arden node with Arden software in it, when you put power to it, it's going to pop up and ask you some things, assuming you've got it connected to your computer and stuff. And it'll ask you some things like you've got to put in your call sign, you've got to give it a node name, you've got to tell it what frequency you want to be on, and it's very important that you put in channel -2 or 2.397 gigahertz. The channel width, the bandwidth, for example, in Arden, we're using a 5 megahertz bandwidth, where most of Wi-Fi is 20 megahertz. So we have a very narrow, piercing kind of a signal, if you want to think of it that way, kind of a rifle instead of a shotgun. But anyway, the things are important that you load your node with if you want to communicate with everyone else in this part of the world. You need to know the bandwidth, which is 5 megahertz. You need to know the channel, which is -2 or 2.397. And you need to know, well, of course, you put in your a node name, which is your call sign, followed by a hyphen, followed by some other name that you want to give it. For example, the one up on my tower here is the Ubiquity Rocket, so its name is K5WXR hyphen Tower Rocket, because I have a variety of Arden nodes, and I know that would have to be up on the tower. It's not the one on my kitchen table or in my office. Okay, and then there's a password that, to protect your setup settings and stuff, so it doesn't get hijacked on you or something. But that's pretty much it. You got like 5 or 6 things that you must set up to configure it to Arden. And then it itself, once it reboots and you save that information and it reboots, it will start going out and broadcasting to the world that it's there and what its name is. And it'll ask, it will go out and say, hey, who else is out there? What other nodes are around me? Who can I talk to? And it'll discover who's there, and it'll start sharing information with these other nodes. Basically, it says, hey, I can hear so-and-so over this way, and I can hear so-and-so over there. Who do you hear? And they talk to each other, and they build routing tables and whatnot, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Basically, you get to use it like you do the internet. You put in an address, and it goes out there in the world and finds it, sends your traffic. And that traffic might be data, might be text, it might be voice, it might be VoIP, it might be photographs, it might be whatever you choose to send over it. I know I probably went on and on and on about how this is, but what are the 5? I hope I covered at least the 5 most common answers.
Let me ask anybody listening to all this that isn't too bored. Do you have a particular question, or did I completely avoid your question altogether? Help me focus on what I should be saying. Anyone want to come with your call sign?
KG5TKI.
Mark, KG5TKI, go right ahead.
Yes, I was looking for direction on, and my apologies for not being more specific. I understand there are, I don't know how many, I'm aware of 3 or 4 different devices, the Pico, Nano, I think there's a Rocket, and the other one escapes me. So if I have in mind to set up a node, when would I use the Pico? When would I use the Nano or the other devices? I assume each one lends itself to a particular kind of node. So that's where I was going with the question. KG5TKI.
Thank you. I appreciate the focus, and that, by the way, is an excellent question. And sometimes I might just evade that subject and I forget. Anyway, I appreciate the clarification. They all do the same thing in that they all, receive. You put your call sign in it and all the setup and all that stuff's the same. The firmware process to load it is the same and all that. They all pass traffic, with the receive packets and send out packets and all that is the same. Some of the differences are, and that varies. There's probably a dozen different models or more. I'll talk about a few of them. There's one, let me start down on what you might think is more common, probably similar to the router that you might have in your house today, provided by your cable TV or fiber company or internet company or whatever, or one that maybe you have purchased. And I'm thinking now of something that's called the Air Router, AIRROUTER, Air Router, Ubiquity Air Router. They make 2 models. They make the regular model, and they make a high performance or high power model, the HP. And it has 5 ports on the back of it. It looks a lot like a standard ordinary router, like maybe a Linksys or Linksys W.
operate mine using a standard Wi-Fi connection, a regular Part 15 ordinary Wi-Fi. It operates on somewhere between channel 1 and channel 11 to get access to my Arden node. So I can use a laptop computer or my cell phone or tablet or whatever and have Wi-Fi access to my ham radio node. You might say, if you want to put it in that terminology. So in other words, earlier when I said what different devices should sort of work, well, the sort of is if you have an Arden node, you've done the things, you got the right gear and the firmware and everything, you set up an Arden node, you then could use virtually any brand, any type of Wi-Fi router to get access to that. You can wire them sort of back to back, and so you can have a Wi-Fi access to your Arden node, and that Wi-Fi access does not have to be a Ubiquiti product, although they do make some Ubiquiti products that are specifically intended for that purpose, like the Air Gateway, for example. It fits right on a very small little device. It fits right on the PoE, the power over Ethernet injector. It snaps right on there. It doesn't take up hardly any room and gives you Wi-Fi access to your node if that's how you're powering your node. It's kind of unfortunate, but the Ubiquiti Air Gateway does not support Arden by itself. In other words, it's regular Wi-Fi router, and use it with one of the other models that does support Arden, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm not confusing. I may have strayed away from your question. You were asking about all the different models, what they're for.
Hamnet.
Let me say that probably the biggest difference between the models is their range and their capability. Sort of like radios and radio antennas. Something that's omnidirectional, or something that's very directional, or something that's sort of directional. For example, I use some of these devices called an air grid, right? It kind of looks a little bit like a barbecue grill, with a little spike coming up in front of it. And it's very directional. It's like 10 or 12 degree spread, and it goes a long ways. I have another one that's a rocket that has basically two power amplifiers built in. It's like MIMO, a MIMO type router. It's got two antennas, and it compares the two signals. And on that one, I run these hypergrid parabolic antennas, and it covers really good distances. I mean, I'm one of the few fortunate people around that's in the right spot at the right time and the right topology and sitting on a hill and not too many trees in my way and whatnot, that I have a link to Roston, 37 miles away, and or maybe it's 35 or 36, forget now. But this is stuff that was intended and sold originally, like the ISPs to put at customers' houses and stuff to provide regular, plain old ordinary internet and Wi-Fi capability. It's built basically to run regular internet Wi-Fi stuff, and yet most of us, if we're plain old ordinary Wi-Fi, we have trouble getting from our bedrooms to our kitchens, or something that's without interference. You want to put in range extenders and stuff, because most of the Wi-Fi stuff was built around 50 feet, 100 feet, possibly 100 meters for the distances that we cover. Well, by operating under Part 97 ham radio rules, we're allowed to run a little more power. We're licensed amateurs. We can have higher gain antennas, and there's things that we're allowed to do that regular Wi-Fi doesn't get to do. And so if things go right, and if your terrain is right, you can establish connections that are not feet away or not meters away, but more like kilometers or miles or tens of miles away. And I happen to be one of those that has that capability, at least in that direction. Now I have a little bit of trouble getting to somewhere else that's closer, but the train's not as good, so, you know. Now, more back to some specifics. Nano Station, for example, the Nano Station has about a 60-degree spread, or maybe it's 80 or 90 degrees, I'm not sure, but it's more directional one way than it is the other way. It's weatherproof, relatively compact, it's all built in, self-contained. When you buy one, that's all you need. You know, of course, it comes with a power supply, and you need a cable, you know, a shielded, by the way, not UTP type Cat 5, but you need STP, shielded Cat 5 cable to run to your power supply and possibly to your computer, if you, depending on whether you're using Wi-Fi or not. But and it's easy to set up. You don't have to aim it particularly well. And if you have medium type distances, I'm guessing that where you might be in the colony, and knowing that the colony has some really good equipment up on the water tower and also in Little Elm, there's a really good setup of multiple sector antennas and whatnot that are in 360-degree fashion. If you're close to one of those, a nano station will probably work wonderfully for you. A little bit smaller, a little bit less expensive version of a nano station is the Nano Station Loco, and it's, you might say, the little brother. Has a little bit less power, a little bit smaller size. And here again, if you happen to be close to the source of where you're going to connect, it's a wonderful little device. If you're a little further away, though, from wherever your closest neighbor is going to be to connect to, then you probably want something with a little more ability, a little higher power, a little more gain in the antenna, and one that might be better focused, where you might be able to burn through some trees and, not, they say you can't have, it's got to be completely clear line of sight. Well, that's pretty much true, but it's not completely true, and, a hill or a mountain in the way is certainly going to obstruct you, and metal buildings will certainly cause you trouble, but...
Attention, severe thunderstorm watch.
The National Weather Service has issued severe thunderstorm watch number 11, effective until 11 p.m. Central Daylight Time. This watch includes the following counties in Texas: Collin, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Hunt, Kaufman, Rockwall, and Tarrant. Remember, a severe thunderstorm watch means the conditions are favorable for the development of severe weather, including large hail and damaging winds in and close to the watch area. While severe weather may not be imminent, persons should remain alert for rapidly changing weather conditions and listen for later statements and possible warnings. Stay tuned to our weather radio, commercial radio and television outlets, or internet sources for the latest severe weather information.
That's interesting. Everybody stand by for just a minute. National Weather Service, are you monitoring this frequency? And if so, is this net bothering you? This is K5WXR. Again, K5WXR, Denton County, W5NGU, repeater 146.92. This is the digitally speaking net. My name is Lee, and I am K5WXR. For those of you that are not aware, the repeater that we're on is Denton County's primary Skywarn frequency, and it has very wide coverage and very wide reception, and it's one that the Weather Service monitors whenever there's any kind of storm activity or situations. And the fact that I know that Tarrant County was included in the alert that we all just heard, that's well within our range of reception or perhaps interference. If Weather Service has a number of radio operators and they have a number of radios across different counties that they listen to and participate in for weather nets and so forth. And one of the things that I always have concern with, let me pause for a second. Those of you who know me already know this, so this will be a repeat and a reminder for all of us. They have limited number of radio operators monitoring multiple radios and multiple frequencies. And even though we may not have any particular storm event here, they may be listening to us. If, for example, if in Plano they were go over another county, they always listen to this county because the weather may be coming from this direction to them. So they're monitoring this frequency to hear what's coming at them, just like we might be monitoring Wise County or Tarrant County or something else to see what might be coming at us. Well, the Weather Service has got a whole lot more than that, and any kind of chatter on the radio on any frequency is stuff that they then have to kind of filter through to try to pick up if there's any type of emergency weather information. So my personal opinion is I do not like to be on the radio doing nets in an informal fashion like we are with basic conversation that's not an emergency or anything. That I don't like to disrupt them in any way. It's sort of like cars on the highway.
Hamnet.
If there's any type of weather situation, I think it's my responsibility to stay home. I don't have to go to the grocery store right then and there, or go out and get gas, or go do anything, or be out on the road. And it's safer for everyone else to have fewer cars on the road. Now, if you happen to be driving a fire truck or ambulance or police officer or some other reason that you need to be out there, it's safer for you if people like me stay home. We don't have to be out there, so I choose to not do that. Same with the radio. If there's any possibility somebody needs to use the radio for some sort of a more important service, like
severe thunderstorm watch,
responsibility to not be filling the air with, things like argon. This is a fun informational topic, but let's face it, this is not something that's life-threatening. Let me ask: is there anyone on the radio today, or perhaps even on NetLogger that's in an adjacent county where you're monitoring this traffic? I look out my window and I don't see any activity, but then again, we have a wide range, wide audience. Is there anyone who has anything that looks like there's weather-related incidents going on within the sound of my voice? Could come back and tell me what it's like. Is it getting dangerous where you are?
KG5 MOV in Decatur. Everything looks good here. It's just a little sprinkle.
Okay.
Trophy Club, KN6WE, just a little cloudy, a little humid, but all good here.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you very much for those reports, and it's also nice to know that that we're heard in Decatur and places like that. So,
I guess we could continue. I mean, if I hear anything more, or if weather service, if you happen to be listening or something, if this is disrupting you in any way, please let me know, because we can terminate this immediately. And if any of you that are more in the outlying areas, if it does get a little more rough out there, or if you think that there are people that need to use this repeater for whatever reason, please let me know.
5RJR.
KG5RJR, go ahead.
Just going to go ahead and continue, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and clear here. I've got some other stuff that I need to take care of and put down some antennas. KG5RJR.
Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you very much for doing this for as long as you have. Somebody's sending me a text, but I don't think I'm going to, I don't know. If you're on the air and you're sending me a text, what, are you doing that?
W5TCN.
W5TCN, go ahead.
Just alert notification going out about the weather, about the thunderstorms and so on. I just got one. You probably did too. W5TCN, back to net control.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. Yeah, that is. I read the first word on there. It said something about severe, but it's a weather alert. Let me. No, what time is it? I can't even see the clock where I'm at. CRV. CRV, was that right? It's a little bit noisy, but go ahead.
8 Juliet Romeo Bravo. Looking at the weather, there's a couple of cells that are building outside of Cleburne, and there's thunderstorm warnings down around the Round Rock area, but everything up in North Texas right now is pretty much clear.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Well, I mean, we've been kind of on the net now for 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. I know there's a lot of subjects I promised several people that we would probably get to a little bit later in the broadcast. I didn't realize it's now 2 hours. My how time flies, you know, when you're having fun. or maybe not. All of you that are listening, you might be thinking, oh, my, I should have turned this off a long time ago. I don't know, but I hope.
Severe thunderstorm watch.
What do you think we should do? Is anybody tired? Do you want to postpone some of these subjects to next week? Or let me ask, does anyone want to continue anything about Arden? Did we summarize or get your Arden questions answered? I guess just to summarize the types of Arden equipment, there's a variety of prices, a variety of shapes and looks and whatnot, variety of power ranges and distances that they can go, or angles that they can cover, whether they're omnidirectional or pretty much one unidirectional. That's kind of the differences between them. But all of the ones that are on the list from Arden support Arden, and you could probably assume that the ones that are not on that list do not support Arden, although they are constantly adding more onto the list. There are some that are under development that they have a spot where they tell you the ones that they're testing and evaluating and whatnot. So, you know, the list changes from time to time, but that's pretty much the size of it. I need to go up here earlier in this discussion. The gentleman that asked what are the other things that the ubiquity devices could be used for? I'd like to, if you're still on the listing, or did any of this cover your question?
This is KF5SQL.
Yeah, I understand about all the ubiquity things. I was looking at the Arden site as well. But one thing I did not see was like the Unify product line from Ubiquity being on that list. Only the Air devices. I was wondering if you could put this Arden firmware onto the Unified device line.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any of the any effort going into doing that, or any activity that anybody's testing, or if they're moving in that direction. I mean, it's possible that people have experimented with that or whatnot, but the devices that use similar firmware, similar loads, they basically are develop a firmware for a category of devices, and those are like lumped in when you see the charts of what they are. You see some that use the radios inside. They use virtually the same radio or the same software, so they develop firmware that will work on those. There are some that they just could not make work, and there are others that are in the process that they're either testing or whatnot. I don't believe that there's any effort going on towards Unify. They're all the M2, the Air. Oh man, there's a category that they call them, and I went blank on the category. But the M2s and M5s, the 5 gigahertz models, the 3 gigahertz models that are not widely sold in the United States, and the 2 gigahertz models. There are other bands and things that use different parts of the world. Artists can work on some of those. 3 gigahertz, for example, we have amateur radio privileges in 3 gigahertz, but the commercial world does not, for regular Wi-Fi or anything. So they don't sell a lot of those in the United States because it's only amateurs basically that can use them. But they sell them in other countries and whatnot. So they are available. But if you want to talk to the other Arden nodes around here, to talk to each other, we all have to be on the same frequency. We have to use the same bandwidth. We have to use the same frequency, bandwidth, and SSID. So in other words, even though you might be able to get the software to run on it, you won't have anybody to talk to if you don't have one of the same things that the rest of us have. So that's kind of the name of that tune. Thank you though for that tidbit of information.
Severe thunderstorm. Watch.
I'm looking over my notes here, and some of the things that we were going to talk about were portable echo link, Arden, antenna mounting of some magnetic mount antennas. I don't know if Jeremy or Jeremiah, if you're still listening or not, but there are some mag mounts that are fairly large that use a multiple of mounts. It's like a big triangle with a big magnet in each corner that can hold quite a bit of weight of an antenna and things. So there are ways of putting antennas on cars. I personally use, this is a controversial subject, I mentioned that some people will get on here and they don't ever do what I'm doing, but I plug my ham radio into my cigarette lighter. As long as I keep it on low power, like 10 watts or less, I never have a problem blowing fuses or anything. But and I use a mag mount antenna, so the radio can come in and out of the car real easy without drilling holes or anything, and I can move it from vehicle to vehicle. So that can work, although everybody says don't do that. You need to wire it directly to your battery. And yeah, it's better if you wire it directly to your battery, but doesn't mean that's the only way.
Monitor.
The CR8900A antenna requires direct grounding, and it's not suitable for magnetic mounting on the roof of the vehicle. So while that would be a great suggestion for something like a 6 meter, 70 centimeter, 2 meter antenna that could use the NMO connector, it wouldn't work for this CR8900A. So what I was looking at was some sort of trunk lid mounting bracket, which basically has two screws that clamp onto the trunk lid. Again, the size of the antenna limits my ability to park it in the garage.
I understand, and I you know, I'm not familiar with that particular model number of antennas, but you know, I've used mag-mount antennas that are 2.4 gigahertz, 900 megahertz, 440 megahertz, 220 megahertz, 2 meters. You know, of course, I mean, there's lots of different things. I've mounted lots of different things using magnets for various things. I have a toolbox on my tractor. I mounted on the toolbox using magnets out of hard drives, using neodymium, very, very powerful rare earth magnets and things. So there's things that can be done that may not be exactly kosher, or may not be what you read in the manual, and yeah, if it really wants grounding, and it has some things to do with the RF and the ground plane and counterpoise, and there's lots of good reasons for these things, but it doesn't mean it's not the only thing that's out there, or the only way that it can work. But I'm one of those that advocates experimentation. Try it. If you think it might work, give it a try, and then come back and let us know whether it really works or not. I mean, just because somebody printed something somewhere does not make it gospel. I know a lot of folks that are doing things that most people say are impossible to do. For example, running 2 meters, people that have participated on this particular net. I'd give his call sign, but I'd want to talk to him first before I start advocating it. But he used like a 80-foot long Alpha Delta HF antenna, and for 2 meters, and it works phenomenally well. And you won't find a book or a manual or a publication that says you can do that. And most people get on the air and say, you can't do that. Well, he does it. So, you know what I mean? It's not, you don't know. Who knows? Who can tell you whether it's going to work or not, other than if you give it a try and see what happens? But, I have an oddball philosophy when it comes to that. So, don't listen to what I say. Don't just find out for yourself, basically, is what I'm encouraging. But there are other alternatives. I mean, just because that antenna was built for that radio, sold by the same manufacturer or whatever, doesn't mean that's the only one that's going to work. So, there's lots of things. One suggestion, though.
Severe thunderstorm. Watch. What'd you be?
Eric, stand by just a second. I was going to mention, if you were to go to a place like Ham Radio Outlet or something, or even someplace like Fry's or some other place or one of these stores along the side of the road somewhere that sells a lot of citizens band equipment to truckers and whatnot, there's a whole lot of different kinds of mounts available. They can mount on a door frame, or mount on a mirror, or mount on a hood, what do you call that bracket? You carry your luggage rack. Trunk mounts, you mentioned trunk mounts. There's bumper mounts. There's lots of different things out there that, you get a little bit creative, you'll probably figure out a way. Some of them will fold down. Some of them are springs. Lots of different things available. And I'm sure if you think about it enough, or think of some of the, think outside the box a little bit, you'll figure it out. And if you like, come back next week, and we'll be happy to talk a lot more about it and see what you come up with. And everybody on the net can be thinking about it too, and if you come back next week, maybe they'll share some ideas. But since we just had a weather announcement, let me go to Eric, see what Eric has got to say. AG5GV, go ahead, please.
Appreciate that. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just going to let you know I'm going to have to go in and go to work. Got some pretty good
clouds building up, and there's some storms building to the south of Fort Worth near Cleburne that's getting to be pretty heavy. And I heard the Weather Service, I believe they were on the 940. That's Tarrant County. I believe that was the frequency. I may be wrong, but anyway, solar report. I was going to go into detail, but make it really, really brief. This Tuesday is going to be good propagation day. So that's all I got. I got to go to work. AG5, GB clear.
Thank you very much, Eric. And I think I would be more comfortable, especially since the weather alerts are getting more frequent and more close. I think it's appropriate that we probably, go ahead and wind down this net. Let me ask the group, by the way, does anybody have anything you've been, waiting for your chance to say it, and or perhaps you have an announcement or something you want to share with the group before we close the net? Let me ask you now. Please come with your call sign. Anyone who has something you need to say before we close the net. Go ahead. Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo, Bravo. David, boy, I was really hoping we'd get a chance to hear your explanation about how you arranged the YouTube connection and everything. I know that was something I really personally wanted to know, but I'm afraid we may have to forgo that for this net. But go ahead, David. Whatever you wanted to say, go ahead. David, Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Bravo Bravo has linked a receiver, an SDR receiver, and has arranged some interconnections to the internet and is streaming this live on YouTube. And I was hoping that we would have time for him to give us a detailed explanation, but so far that's my summary of what's going on. Does anyone have any particular questions? Perhaps you'd like to ask David directly. Please come to your call sign. Well, either we scared them away, or they, or that summary was enough to keep them thinking for a bit. David, again, thank you very much for setting this up and making that happen, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Do you have any other closing thoughts you might want to share, David? Sure, David, you go right ahead. Thank you again, David. Does anyone else have an announcement or anything you'd like to share with the group before we terminate the net? Okay, let me just say this one more time. My name is Lee. I am K5WXR. Net. There is a website, digitallyspeakingnet.net, that you can find more information, things that are recovered or repeat or replay, or any information you may have missed from this net. Check in the next few days, and chances are Randy will have it posted. And again, we're here every week, every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. So hope to hear from you all again in next week and the week after. So and every week for that matter. If you have any suggestions or recommendations or things that you liked or didn't like, or things that you want to let me know, please don't worry about hurting my feelings. But if you want to send me an email and make a suggestion on things we could have done better or differently, or things you might prefer, the way we do things, or formats, or subjects you want to talk about, or basically anything at all, you can find my personal information on qrz.com. Feel free to drop me an email or a telephone call, or whatever you like, and let me know what's on your mind. I appreciate it. I can't think of anything else, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and close the net. It's like 4, I've lost my timer here. 4:20, I guess, p.m. Or that's the date. No, 4:34. Oh my gosh. 2 hours and 34 minutes for a 1 hour net. Thank you again. This is K5WXR, and if you could all just stand by for about 30 seconds while I put the repeater back in normal mode. I just got to thinking, we have a weather alert on right now. KE5GDB, Andrew, or WZ5, WB5, NZV. Anyone who's real familiar with the repeater controls, if I reset the repeater now, will that somehow affect the weather alerts that we're having? I don't want to do that if that's the case.
KC5GOI. Lee, I was the one that set weather alert. You can go ahead and put it back in normal mode, and I'll take care of the weather alert mode.
Guys, thank you very much. And also, if you get a few minutes, in the next little while or any time this evening, if you wouldn't mind giving me a telephone call, I need 5 minutes or less to discuss it.
Severe thunderstorm. Watch.
It'll be a little bit, Lee, but I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. And by the way, it's not real important, so if you're busy tonight, that's fine. No problem. Stand by.
This repeater is returned to normal operation.
Thank you, everyone. Hope to see you all again next week. This is K5WXR Clear.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this live stream of the Digitally Speaking Net. Subscribe to make sure that you receive notifications for the upcoming live streaming of nets and just repeater events. This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Bravo Bravo. Just saying thank you. 73, and have a great weekend. KG5 UBB.